Today, I want to talk about why the color red is such a dangerous color during that pre-spawn time of the year. It is such an effective color. It's one of the best colors. It's something that I have tied up in a lot of the baits that I use, whether it's a crankbait, a chatterbait, maybe I'm flipping a jig. I like to use a lot of red kind of in that between winter and when the bass go up to spawn. Now there's some really cool like scientific reasons why this works so well, and I'm gonna get into that today. But real quick before I do, this video as always is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. You can pick up USA made sun shirts, hats, gloves, a lot of awesome stuff in the links down below. All right. Let's talk about the color red. Now, one thing that you should understand in bass fishing is sometimes there's not always a great reason as to why something works. And that is hard for me at times as an angler because I really like to know the why behind things. But for example, in the spring, kind of in the pre-spawn to post-spawn, a pink floating worm is one of the most effective baits to go out there and catch bass. It doesn't look like anything in nature. It really doesn't. And I don't know why the bass love it, but they do. And so that's a technique in a color that I'm like, whatever, it just works. And that's all I need to know. Now, when it comes to the color red, there are some interesting things that happen in nature and some things with a bass's eyesight, which makes this color so effective. Now, the first thing when it comes to it is what happens in nature. Now, if you live in primarily the southeastern part of the United States, there is a crawfish in a lot of your waters known as a red swamp crawfish. Now, I say primarily in the southeastern, but these crawfish have been found in a lot of different states across the nation. I live in Ohio, and they have been found as far up as Ohio, even further north. So this particular crawfish, one, it has a little bit of red in it, like by nature. There's just a little bit of red already in these crawfish. But during the winter and springtime, crawfish, especially in that part of the country, kind of become a little bit more dormant and a little bit more inactive. And they spend a little bit more time in the burrows that they make in the dirt and in the clay. Now, in the southeastern part of the United States, you have a lot of red dirt, a lot of red clay. And when the crawfish kind of goes into those burrows, it's going to eat zooplankton that are in the dirt and the clay that it's sitting in or burrowing in. Now, because it can't really separate the clay and the dirt from the zooplankton, that crawfish actually eats some of that dirt and some of that clay in the process. And what happens is it picks up on the pigment that is in that red dirt, in that red clay. And that pigment really turns that crawfish red in color. This is a lot like you see flamingos. You know, flamingos, if you feed them fish or whatever, if you feed them something other than shrimp, which is what they primarily eat in nature, they will turn like white in color. If you've ever gone to a zoo and you see a bunch of flamingos and they're white, that's because they're not feeding them shrimp. And usually it's because shrimp is a lot more expensive than something else that they can feed them. But in nature, they eat a lot of shrimp, they pick up on the pink pigment from shrimp and they turn pink. So this exact same thing happens with these red swamp crawlers. And during that springtime time frame, kind of in that pre-spawn, right up into the spawn, when those crawfish are becoming a lot more active, they're a lot more out of their burrow, they are the reddest in color a lot of times that they will be all year. And so when you throw a red crankbait, a red chatterbait, even a red jerkbait, it is mimicking that color that a bass sees and knows, hey, this is a red crawfish, I'm gonna get me a little meal. So that is one of the big reasons why red can be so effective during that time of the year. Now, the second part, there's a lot of you that might be like, that's really cool, Tyler, but I don't live in that part of the country. And I don't think I have red swamp crawfish in the waters that I fish. And I completely agree. And red can still be a really effective color in the spring. And this is kind of my theory behind it, which there's like also some scientific truths behind it as well. And that is that during that pre-spawn to spawn time frame, when red is so effective, you have a large group of fish, maybe even the majority of bass, that are simply up in shallow water. Now, I have always thought that a bass almost resets every winter. And what I mean by that is kind of towards the end of the year, you have a lot of fish that have been beat up. They've been caught by a ton of different lures, and they've seen all the colors, cool colors out there. And fish will learn, and they will kind of remember some of those things, and it will make them very, very hard to catch. Well, during the winter, a lot of anglers don't fish. I mean, it's, they're hunting, that November, December, January, February, there's not a ton of fishermen out there. And a lot of science, I remember the Berkeley scientist at an event I was just at told me that the most that they've ever seen a bass kind of remember is 6 months. So for the most part, I think bass reset during the winter, where they completely forget what they've been caught on, and you can almost start to catch them on a lot of the same things that you did the year before. And it's almost like all that pressure that they had kind of is erased by the winter. Well, coming back to the fact that a lot of fish are up shallow, the color red is one of the best colors that a bass can see in shallow water, along with greens. Reds and greens are one that their eyes pick up on the most. So now, if you are fishing a bait that is red in color, it is one of the ones that a bass can most easily see. And that is why they can pick up on it. And because they're so fresh, they're kind of reset, they're a lot more active, and they're a lot more likely to hit those baits. And that's why I kind of think bass eat red so well during the spring. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, you'll probably enjoy my most recent video that I did right here. Also, don't forget to comment below, and I will see you tomorrow.